Hi, everybody. Diana here at Sew in Common. Welcome to this week's episode of the Quilting Library. You noticed I said Sew in Common, not Heartfelt Creative. Yeah, we've dropped the Heartfelt Creative. If you want to know all about that, go check out yesterday's announcement video that was posted August, today's August 11th. I believe I posted it. Everything is now, we've put everything under one umbrella, one name, no longer two names. Everything is under Sew in Common. Check that video out. It's actually show you in the video all of the different screens and stuff from the website and the Facebook page and the Facebook group and all that good stuff. So you can go check that out. This week's, sorry, I just had a complete brain freeze. This week's block is called the Illinois Journey Block. Actually, let me grab mine off of the design wall. Each month when I do them, I keep all 4 blocks on my design wall, so I'm always seeing them. And I grab one when it's time to do the next video. So this is the block we're going to do today. It's a very simple block, but it has a lot of meaning. Some of you might be the kind of quilters that like to do Civil War era reproduction quilts, or the Underground Railroad Trail kind of quilts. That's where this block comes from. That's why it's called the Illinois Journey. And it's very simple, but there's a meaning to it, which you're going to see more in the demonstration piece I put together, because this example here that I put together, I kind of went pretty scrappy because I used a layer cake. So I didn't do it all in the same 2 fabrics. But when we do it in the same 2 fabrics, you're going to notice kind of a crossroads kind of look to it. And the reason that's important was this is the block that was used during, from what I've understood from my research in the history, that was done during the Civil War, the Underground Railroad, for folks coming through Illinois. And if you live in Illinois, or you know anything about Illinois, you know, except for quite north and quite south, our state is really flat. We grow a lot of corn, we grow a lot of beans, we raise a lot of cattle, a lot of pigs, a lot of chickens. We're a very agricultural state for the most part. Unless you go way north, up by Chicago, then we're industrial. Or if you go way south, we're still agricultural, but there's a lot of more rolling hills down there. But in the flatter part, the more central part of Illinois, the roads are just like this. They all come to a 90-degree angled turn. There is a county in the state called Taswell County. It's by McLean County, which is by Bloomington, Illinois, which is where my husband is from. And we call these turns Taswell County curves, because there's no curve there. You've got to stop, you've got to turn. But since we don't have curves in this part of the state, that's what we call our curves. So when you see this block put together, you'll see that it very definitely represents that type of curve. But what it really represents is our fields. And so folks going through the Underground Railroad, it kind of represented the idea that this land was very angular, very flat and very angular, a little bit easier for them to find their way where they were going. That is the supposed history of the Illinois Journey Block. And as a girl from Illinois, I like that. I like the story. I like that somebody thought enough to, even if it isn't a true history, to make up that history, and to think that folks have, I know that folks helped folks in this area. Through my own family history, I know that my mother's family was actually one of the families that were split in 2. Half of them stayed in the north, half of them went to the south, and their name got changed. The name from the north The name they came here with actually went to the south, and the folks that stayed in the north kind of changed it a little bit. I won't say the name and all that because, you know, that's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm just saying our family has a history there. There's a history of the war with my father's family too that's really quite interesting. So you might have interesting histories like that in your own family. Look those things up. You can find out all about that kind of stuff. So I've got my coffee with me today. It's very good. For all the heat we've had lately, and it has been muggy and hot, we've had like 2 days of total storms, tornadoes and wind and rain and gloom and boom. And so it was nice to stay inside where it was kind of gloomy and very muggy and hot. That's supposed to go away tomorrow, so I'm glad. All right, enough of my gabbing on and on. Let's make this block. It's a super simple block. There is a download. You'll see the link below on my website. It's a free download for you to make this block. This size I made because we actually made this into a table topper in a workshop. You could also make this into a wall hanging. You could also make it into a pillow cover. So in the link below, there's a free download for you with instructions on what you need for making the whole thing to turn it into an actual project if you'd like to. Alrighty, so pretty easy. You're going to need 2 fabric A strips and 2 fabric B strips. Your fabric A strips are going to be, this is perfect for a jelly roll. If you're a jelly roll person, this is great because you're going to need 2 of one and 2 of another that are 2.5 inches by width of fabric. And fabric B, 2.5 inches by width of fabric. And you're going to sew them together in 2 big long strips like this, okay? And then we are going to cut them up into units, into squares. So let me flip through the cameras here because I think these are out of order again. I don't know why my sewing machine camera, I have to figure that one out. So I have my strips here. Let's get our camera down here where you can see a little better. I'm going to do a little bit of a, flip this around. I'm going to do a little bit of a cleanup cut. It's always worth doing a cleanup cut, even if that just looks super straight and super right on. I can tell now, lining it up against one of these lines on my mat, that it's not. So it's always good to do a cleanup cut. And to be honest, I know some folks just do like 1/4 of an inch. I always do my cleanup cuts when I start at 1/2 inch. When I do cleanup cuts later, I don't do them that big, but I just want to make sure I get everything right. So there's my nice cleanup cut. Now I know I have a really good edge. So I'm going to flip it around and then I can cut into my segments, into my units. So I want to cut 16 4.5 inch units. So you're going to have 2 long strips like this, and you'll need to cut most of both of them to get your 16 units. So I'm using my Quilter Select ruler. It's got that nice finish on the back that keeps it from sliding around. I love these rulers. I would have to say, of all the rulers I use, truly, and they're all great, but I really love the Quilter Select. So we're going to line this up at the 4.5 inch mark, which is right here. Now I'm left-handed, so you might be going in the opposite direction of me if you're right-handed, which most of you probably are. And I've got myself a unit cut there. Okay. In fact, I'm going to set that unit aside. I may not use that one. For some reason, I don't like how it looks. It looks like one of my strips were not quite right off the jelly roll. So I'm going to start with this one. So I've already got 9 of them cut from my first strip set. Strip cutting like this, oh gosh, it just is so easy and so simple and so efficient for your piecing if you can do strip piecing. I've quilted for over 5 decades. You can figure that math out. It's pretty easy. And, you know, back when my grandmother taught me, everything was done by hand. We would cut everything by hand with a pair of scissors. We would draw with a pencil. We'd cut out templates from newspaper, stuff like that. And then after Dave and I were married, I went to a fabric shop one day to get some fabric because I wanted to, I actually wanted to work on some curtains for our apartment. It was our first apartment after we had been married. And the lady was showing me all these brand new machines and stuff, and they were all beautiful and way out of my price range because we were both still in school and working. And so, you know, money, that's why I was making curtains, because money did not grow on trees in those days. It still doesn't, but you know what I mean. Anyway, and she told me that they were having, I told her I was a quilter, and she told me that they were having a class for piecing and quilting on your sewing machine. And I thought, oh no, my grandmother would never speak to me again if I did that. And at that time, grandma was still with us. So she was not really happy that I decided to take that class. I did decide to take it. Dave encouraged me to take it so that I would have something to do, because at that time he worked a lot of nights. That's just an extra piece that I'm going to put in my scrap pile. He worked at night because he was in school all day. I worked at night and went in school. You know, we were just, it was that kind of a crazy scenario. But the first class I ever took to work on piecing and all on your sewing machine was a strip piecing class. And I loved it. We did log cabins. I love that class. All right, so now we have all of our pieces. I may have more than 16 here, but you should have a minimum 16 pieces. That's how many you need for the square. Now I have chosen two very opposite type fabric. I've chosen a white on white. Can you see the little there? Can you see the little print on there? And then I had some strips. This was going to be binding for another piece, and I changed my mind on the binding. And so I already had these strips cut. And so obviously very opposite. So you can do that with your fabrics. You could do like I did with this one. You could do all different kinds of small prints. That would be fine too. You're going to have to cut these individually if you do all kinds of prints though, right? But you could do two small prints, two strips of two small prints. That would be fine, because this one kind of reads as a solid. So that would be okay. So you can do a medium and a dark, a light and a medium, and dark. I obviously did a dark and a light. I would consider this dark. That's just me. So you're going to lay your squares out now. Let me get my coffee out of the way. So I'm going to start way up here because it's always hard to see. Let me get my camera up to get as much space here as we can. All right, so I'm going to lay my first piece out. I'm in my upper left corner here, upper left. And I'm going to start out with this row, starting with my block with the two segments in it in the vertical. Then I'm going to come over here. Oops, I don't want that white on the outside. And because the white is going to end up in this kind of being my background fabric. So I'm going to lay those together. So this one, the strips go vertical, and this one, the strips go horizontal. Easy peasy, right? The next one is the exact same as this one. Wait. I think I have to. No. There we go. So it's exact same. You'll have to excuse me. I'm trying to be extremely careful. I found myself sewing everything in the wrong order lately. I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's just been a lot going on these days. So we have 4 here, right? So 4 blocks is going to make 1 row. Then we're going to come down here and do the exact opposite. We're going to do in the horizontal and in the vertical and in the horizontal and in the vertical. And you see what just happened there? There's our Taswell County curves or our fields. Ooh, that kind of looks like fields too, fields of corn. Oh, I kind of like that. It must have been meant to be, huh? I didn't even plan that. Alrighty, so you can see you've got very specific field idea there. Fields here, or roads. You can also think of these as roads. Roads leading into fields. Let me slide that up a little bit, and then we're going to go right back to our first row and lay this one out that same way. See, this just comes together. As soon as you get them cut, you lay them out, you're off to the races, guys. It's super easy. This block is so easy. And this one goes this way. Do I have this one right? Hang on. No, this one goes this way. There we go. This one goes this way. And I had a spare there. And this one goes this way. That's your 4-block unit, or your 4 blocks for this piece. Now, you can put this together in a couple of ways. You could do a 4-patch, a 4-patch, a 4-patch, and a 4-patch, right? So 4, you would do these two together, and put them together. And you would do that in all 4 sections. Or you could put rows together. Okay. I personally like putting 4 patches together better than rows, because I like being able to kind of match up my seams here in these centers a little bit easier. And then after I have the 4 patches together, I will connect these two, sew these two together, and then I will sew these two together, these 2 blocks, and then flip them and sew the 2 units together. And then that gets me my block. So you're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance on everything. Whatever your favorite neutral thread is. I use Orifil's Dove Gray, 50 weight Dove Gray, or a white. Sometimes I use their white, which is 2,000, I think, or 1,000 is the number. I think the Dove Gray I use is 2,600. And once you have them all sewn together, oh, and I use an 8012 Microtex needle. You could use a 7511 needle if you like. I recommend that you use a sharp needle. It works better on wovens, and woven cotton, this kind of cotton, of course, is woven. So when you get all of these together, to finish this off, all you're going to do is add 2 2.5 inch strips on the side, and then a 2.5 inch strip at the top, and a 2.5 inch strip at the bottom. And then you're going to have the whole piece. Let me flip the camera again. So after you get all your blocks sewn together, you add your 2 sides and your top and your bottom, and that's your whole block. See, it's so super simple. I mean, really, this, if you are a beginner at patchwork quilting, this is your block. Call it whatever you want, make up whatever story you want, but this is your block because it's just that simple. You're doing 2 strip sets, cutting them, and then sewing just squares together. You're not having to worry about half square triangles. You're not having to worry about 1/4 square triangles or curves, anything like that, because you're going to be doing Taswell County curves. And then you're going to add just your 2.5 inch strips for your borders. And I suggest that you use something different from your other 2 fabrics for your borders, just to kind of spice it up a little bit. But if you don't have another fabric and you have only one of those 2, you could do one on the top and bottom and the different one side to side, or like on this one, let me flip the camera back again. There's the sewing machine again. There we go. So I could do my top in this, my side in this, my top in this, and my side in this. So I could do a round robin kind of thing. That's basically what I just said, isn't it? Sorry, guys. So that's what you could do with this block. Now, let me come back over here. So it is, easy, easy peasy to put together. I mean, this was so simple that I was a little bit like, do I really want to put it in the quilting library? But it's so simple and it's such a great beginner block that I thought, yeah, I want to put it in there, and it has some historical significance. So the other thing I thought was, let's talk about the quilting of it. So I'm going to lay out, I'm going to pull up my blocks here, because I will put this all together later. It's just so simple. You don't want to sit there and watch me sew all those little pieces together, all those blocks together. So I am going to flip back over again. There's the sewing machine. And there we go. Okay, so here's my finished block. So let's talk about quilting for a minute, because even if you're not a beginning patchwork piecer, but you want to practice your quilting techniques, this again is your block to do that, because you've got all these squares, right? So if you are someone who likes to do edge-to-edge quilting, you could do all your, this would be on an embroidery machine. You could do here and here, and then maybe just do in your border, just some up and down straight stitching on your sewing machine. You could, if you had software for your embroidery machine where you could customize the quilting, you could customize a little motif for each and every block if you want, or customize 2 and do every other block. Super cute. Or if you want to work strictly on your domestic sewing machine, you could practice your in the ditch quilting. I wouldn't do every single line. I would do like these lines and these lines, or I would pick like 2 sets of lines to do. So maybe I would do all of these, but then I wouldn't do the long ones this way. You could do that. You could do X's in your block on your sewing machine. That would be super simple and very cute. You know, honestly, if you did X's and you kind of did every other one, you almost make it look like a checkerboard that way. That's an idea. You could, if you use quilting rulers with a quilting foot on your domestic sewing machine, perfect. You have little spaces, all these little spaces. Or what you could do is consider these, all of these, to be your, to be a space, and these 4 right in the middle to be a center block in and of itself, and do those. If you remember on the other block that I pieced out for us, there are these 4-way stops in the center here of each one of these 4 patch blocks, and you could do something in each of those. So there is lots of stuff that you could do for quilting. Also, if you're someone who likes to hand quilt, because I still, you know, I've told you this a lot of times, I don't do a lot of hand stitching. Like, I don't do hand embroidery, I don't do English paper piecing. I have done them both for years and years. I'm no good at them. Left-handed. I just trust me when I tell you. It just didn't turn out to be my thing. Not that I don't like it. Like cross stitch, love it, do it all day long. But other embroidery, hand embroidery, I'm just not good at it. My stitches don't come out looking right. But I do still like to hand quilt from time to time. It connects me with my grandma, and I just love it. So you could easily do some hand quilting on this small piece. So you can make it into a pillow, just add, you know, lay your backing, do an envelope backing, flip it inside out, put your pillow form in it, there you're done. You could just make your quilt sandwich, then bind it after it was quilted and make a lovely little wall hanging or a table mat, anything you want. But what this sheet that is going to be at the link below is going to give you, how much of the fabric you need backing fabric and fusible fleece and batting as if you were going to do it as a table mat or mini wall hanging. But if you're going to do it as a pillow, where it says 18 by 18 backing fabric, do that times 2. That way you'll have enough there to work into a envelope back for your pillow. Okay, so Illinois Journey, simple block, but I wanted to get it in here. So I hope this inspires you to maybe try a little quilting or to try a little piecing, because I know a lot of you go, you know, I don't piece. I don't know how, I don't like it. Try this one. Super simple, super simple. If you wanted to, and I have a bunch of these that I've never put together, but I really should. Put a bunch of these together. Put like 4 of them across, 5 of them across, and about 5 or 6 rows down, you would have one killer beautiful quilt. Because with the border on each block, you wouldn't need to put sashing in. It's kind of a built-in sashing right there. All right, folks, thanks for joining me this week for the Quilting Library. There's lots of other episodes and other blocks for you to check out. Of course, there's my other 2 series, Sew and Comment Sunday, which is kind of my video quilting journey. A couple weeks ago, we did 2 different weeks where we went to IKEA. One week I showed you how to set up a room with IKEA because I was getting so many questions about that. And then the next week I showed you about all the things you can find at IKEA to sew with and to sew on. And then last week, I got back to doing the socialite blocks. So if you want to know more about that, check out Sew in Common. And then there's my Good Gadgets set series, which is all about different tools that we use in quilting and sewing and how we use them and other things that we can use them for. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Check out yesterday's announcement video and you can find out all about the whole big name change and also about the workshop coming up on Tuesday, because the deadline to sign up for the Wing Your Way Home workshop is coming up on Sunday. All right, so don't miss it. There's still a few seats left for that class. It's a virtual class, so you won't have to like come to my studio or anything like that. All right, guys. Love you all so much. Thank you. Have a great day. Go sew life beautiful. Bye now.